Welcome back to Perkins Pipes. Ooh, we got a deep one for you today. And for this, I brought out the gorgeous Aldo Velani Bulldog Semi-Church Warden. Boy, you can kind of see, maybe hear the breeze kicking up in the back. A beautiful day here in southern Indiana, or central Indiana, sorry. I'm originally from southern Indiana, but live in central Indiana. And just such a gorgeous, gorgeous pipe. Enjoy this one so much, wanted to bring him out. So as always, let's get this guy lit. Let's get to talking. We're going to talk a little bit about life and death today, folks. Life and death through at least literature. Probably get into some theology, some philosophy as well. Just look at this gorgeous, gorgeous pipe. Do just love this one so much. Okay. I want to work backward in time. I'll start off between 1588 and 1593, which is when we think that Shakespeare wrote what people think was his first tragedy, the play Titus Andronicus. I remember when I first read it, there was a line that jumped out at me, and I've remembered it ever since, and at this point it's been decades. The character of Lucius says in Act 3, Scene 1, he's exclaiming, and he says, that ever death should let life use his name, where life hath no more interest but to breathe. What a line. What a line. What he means by that is, I can't believe that death would ever allow life to go on using the name of life, where life has nothing else to do but to breathe. If that's all that's left, if it's just the mechanical functioning, then let death claim this individual. Let death take over. Why would death allow life to go on using the name of life, where life hath no more interest but to breathe? Now, that alone would be comment enough. That alone would be a bit of literature enough to prompt a nice discussion. But I want to go to a little bit further back in time. We're going to jump back to 438 BC. We're going to jump back to 438 BC and the Greek tragic playwright Euripides. In his play, Alcestis. I'm going to go into a little bit more on the plot of Alcestis. I used to teach this play for many years in translation. The story is set that, I'm not going to go into too much of the detail here, but the god Apollo has made a deal with death on behalf of his friend, King Admetus, that as long as the king can find somebody else to die in his place, Admetus will never have to die. Time comes, death is ready. King goes to his father, says, you're old already, your time has come and gone, why don't you die for me? King says, not on your life. Says, I know of no custom among our people that says that a father dies for his son. No, not going to do it. King goes to his mother, says, Mother, won't you die for me? She basically says the same thing. Not going to do it. I'm in love with life as much as you are. I'm not going to hasten it, so the death, so no. And then he goes to his wife. Alcestis. And she says, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. But you got to promise to watch over our son and our daughter. And there's this really poignant scene. A lot of crying. And then Euripides, the way he writes the play, and again, I couldn't possibly get into this without you actually reading it, but he writes in such a way that there's a period in the play where it's unclear whether Alcestis has actually died yet or not. Has death come to claim the queen or not? And while they're in that period of uncertainty, the character of Heracles comes by. Now, Heracles is the Greek version of Hercules. That's the name probably more people know from the Latinized form. And Heracles comes to stay. He's a friend of the king. The king lets him stay. And he's unclear why people seem to be in mourning. The servants and everybody seems to be in their mourning clothes and in grief. And let me just read you a bit from this. And Heracles says to Admetus, he says, surely you've not lost your wife, Alcestis. Admetus says, yes and no. There are two ways I could answer that. Heracles doesn't understand. He says, well, did you say she's dead? Or is she still alive? Admetus says, she is, but she's gone away. It troubles me. Heracles says, I still don't know what you mean. You're being obscure. Admetus says, you know about her and what must happen, do you not? Heracles, I know she's undertaken to die for you. Admetus, here's the part we're going to be interested in. How can she really live then, when she is promised that? Heracles, do not mourn for her before she dies. Wait for the time. Admetus, the point of death is death. The dead are lost and gone. Heracles, being and non-being are considered two different things. Admetus, that is your opinion, Heracles. It is not mine. Well, it's really more philosophical, and certainly more philosophical for the character of Heracles than we're used to. Heracles is something of a violent, dumb brute most of the time, and so you don't expect such heady conversation. Being and non-being are considered two different things. You don't really expect that. But the conflict between the discussion between the two men centers around this. Admetus says, well, she's agreed to die. So whether she is actually physically dead or not, what's the difference? She might as well be. As good as dead is dead. Heracles says, no, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Those are two different things. Being and non-being. Either she's dead or she's alive. There's no as good as dead is the same as dead. Now, there have been years when I've taught this play. I haven't taught it in a number of years. There's been years when I've taught this play, and I would talk about it with my students in regard to life support. You see what I mean when I said we're getting into a heady topic here? There are those who would say, as good as dead is dead. There were those who would say with Lucius from the play Titus Andronicus, that ever death should let life use its name, where life hath no more interest but to breathe. Of all that's going on is the mechanical filling and exhaling from the lungs. and a mechanical beating of the heart. If that's it, as good as dead is dead. Might as well end the life support. Then there are those who would say, with the character of Heracles, no, no, no. Being and non-being are two different things. If the person still has a heartbeat, the lungs are, still working in some capacity, that's alive. And alive is different from dead. I know there are many, I think there's philosophical approaches you could take to this. There's certainly theological approaches you could take to this, and I got to say, when it really comes down to a matter of faith, and I apologize, I didn't know my neighbor was going to start cutting his grass as I'm recording this video, so I hear the neighbor coming in next door here, so I don't know if that's going to obscure us or not. Hopefully not too much. I do think there are Christians who would argue on both sides. Okay? I think there are Christians who would say, you know what? I don't want mom to suffer. I don't want dad to suffer. Or the elderly person who says, I don't want heroic measures. I just want basic, do what you got to do, but I don't want you hooking me up to machines to prolong my life. Because suffering is wrong. Suffering is bad. And you shouldn't prolong it. And let's be honest, there is a prolonging now that's possible. It wouldn't have been possible 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 2,000 years ago. So is that really life to be hooked up on a machine? Then there will be those who would say, you know what? There's life. I don't care how minimal it is, but there's a little bit of life there, and you gotta nurture it. You gotta care for it until it goes out on its own. Because God is the one who created life, and only God can take it. So I think there's a serious, and I gotta be honest, all you who watch my videos, you're so kind in the comments. I've never seen anybody vilify other people in the comments, so I know I don't even have to offer that comment there, but we don't want to vilify each other in this, because I think there are legitimate, serious, well thought out claims on both sides of that argument. So, where are you? Where are you on that one? I got to be honest, I've been on both sides. And yes, I know the extended consequences, and you start thinking about physician-assisted suicide, and then you start thinking about, oh my goodness, could family members actually do that to a loved one who really wasn't that ill? Or maybe somebody who was mentally ill? Somebody they simply wanted to get out of the way? Yeah, I know. And I think we have to take those consequences of a particular approach into consideration. So where are you? Are you with Lucius in the play Titus Andronicus? That death should ever let life use, or that ever death should let life bear his name, where life hath no more interest but to breathe. And pretty much the same position as the king Admetus in the play Alcestis. As good as dead is dead. Or would you be with the character of Heracles from Alcestis? Being and non-being are two different things. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on this one. Ooh. Folks, as Malcolm Guite likes to say, I do these little things in order at last to do nothing. Or as I like to say in Latin, Parva ago ut tandem, nihil agam. Have a wonderful day.